second, fourth, second, fourth, second. That was Wout's last 6 races in the Spring Classics and results, and he just could not end his dry spell of not getting a win. And wow, stage 9, Dad was unbelievable. It was emotional. It was everything we wanted to see. As his biggest fanboys, we couldn't believe just how good it was. And full respect to Del Toro, what an epic stage. But we spoke a few weeks ago in terms of the mental toll and expectations on Wout to come back from injury and to come back from crashes and just, resume his normal form. And everyone just assumed that you can come back from that and be a winner again. And he did prove in stage 9 that he is a champion, but it's not as easy as everyone thinks. So what do you have to say about this? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and as everybody knows, we're big Wout fans, and that's what I want to talk about is, what happens to people's form throughout a year. And you must understand that there will be highs and lows, and whatever the reason, it doesn't matter whether you're injured or sick, you'll have highs and lows. And to see Wout come back from where he's come back from and to win, the stage 9 of the Giro, which is the Strada Bianca stage, which ironically kicked off his career as a pro cyclist back in, the late 2000s, 2018, 19, 20. And, that was kind of where he really found himself as a cyclist. And to see his journey over the last 6 years and doubt himself almost, and to see the emotion that he had after the race was incredible. It was like he'd just won, the Olympic World Championships or gold medal, or it was just a stage of the Giro. And I say that not flippantly. It's not just a stage of the Giro. It's to win any stage in any Grand Tour is unbelievably epic, and that is hard to do. Not many people have done it. So to win the Strada Bianca stage here, I think was exceptional because it meant so much to him. And I said to you off air that, he wants to win Paris-Roubaix. He wants to win Flanders. But he equally wants to win anything to do with that famous Strada Bianca, the White Roads race, which will become one of the monuments, I reckon, down the track. But it was such an epic day, wasn't it? And the way it unfolded, I could not stop watching it. It was, middle of the night and glued to the telly. And, they had 1 kilometre to go, and I was just sitting there thinking, what is going to happen here? What do I think is the outcome here with 2 guys going toe-to-toe? With one guy sitting on, one guy trying to get in pink, one guy trying to win the race. What is going to happen in the next minute? And my hope was that Wout could get around him, hang onto his wheel, get around him on that last corner, because you can't win. If you get to the top of that hill and don't get to first place with the last 2 corners, you can't win. There's no way you can get around the other rider. So you have to make your move in that split second. And the fact that Wout's done that race so many times, he knew that, and I'm not sure Del Toro probably was thinking along those lines. So it would be interesting to hear Del Toro's thoughts about, obviously his main goal was to win the pink jersey, which he did succeed to do, but winning the stage would have been an unbelievable breakthrough he's going to be a great rider, this guy. But to see Wout win that stage, it was, I was yelling at the telly, screaming. It was great.
I don't like any of the comments that are saying, Wout didn't deserve it, Del Toro gifted it to him, Del Toro had to do all the work, he carried him to the end. I personally just disagree with all that. The winner is the winner, and no one's going to remember who did the work with 2 kilometers to go. No one's going to remember how that unfolded, and there's so many tactics at play in a Grand Tour like this, but Del Toro could have played a little bit differently. There wasn't that's not the only card he had. And to be fair, he was doing that with the bigger goal in mind and doing that work. That was a smart decision, and it probably did cost him the stage. But at the same time, he's a much lighter rider and clearly better climber than Wout. So he still has that advantage up that climb, and he almost had him. He was a couple of pedal strokes away, and Wout in his interview said that. He does have that experience of this stage. He knows every climb and how you just have to do the amount of time it's going to take to get to the result, just to get to the top. And, it's just that's the last bit of effort to get there. And he clung on, and as you said, went around him and took the win.
But there was a couple of points early on the White Roads where Del Toro had him on the ropes, and because Wout knew there was only another 15 seconds that he had to hang on and there was going to be a downhill, that's the experience of knowing the course knowledge and knowing that, the tactics I need to do. This is a free ride for me if I can just not get dropped here. And it's easier said than done. Of course, Wout said, I was way beyond my limit on 2 occasions where I had to spend next 15 minutes actually recovering on the wheel of Del Toro because he was just too strong for me. He was in another league. And my race experience, he's not saying this out loud, but his Wout's race experience got him that victory. And he was clever. He knew that he was protecting Yates, his teammate, back there, and that's the card he played, and he had every right to do that. And Del Toro had every right to ask him to do a turn. And Wout's answer is, yes, I'll do a turn if you let me win the stage. That would have been the discussion. And Del Toro would have said, well, stuff you, I'll just do it myself. But I think he made a mistake there. I think he would have got pink anyway. He would have got the pink jersey anyway had he made Wout work, and then he had more chance of winning the actual stage. So had he agreed to work with Wout and then let Wout win the stage, when they got to that last climb, if Del Toro had made Wout do turns, he probably could have dropped him before he got to that point. What's he going to do? Sit up and wait for Wout? That's not an agreement that they've agreed on. The agreement was if they get to the finish, he'll let him win. But if he works him over by making him do turns, there would have been a point there where Wout probably couldn't roll any more turns and then would have had to change his agreement. So I just don't think there was one card to play there for Del Toro. But at the end of the day, he has no regrets. His ambition as a child was to win the pink jersey, and the stage was going to be an added bonus. And for those people who are commenting that it was a gift, that was no way that was a gift. You had to watch that race from start to finish. They were two boxers punching each other to the death there, and it was a fair and square event with tactics playing the major role, and that's what cycling is. It's there are certain advantages to getting a draft, and Wout used it properly, and that's all. That's the experience he has as a veteran. This guy's a new cyclist, and he's going to win a lot of races. But he'll learn from that. But he has no regrets. I saw his interview. He's so proud of his effort.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It's such an interesting discussion point because, tactically, the argument against that is that, Van Aert will never work with Del Toro because he's got Yates back there, and Del Toro is in clear contention against Yates for the GC. But you know yourself from, and you say this all the time, and I love this experience from yourself with your cycling racing experience, is that when there's a win on the line, guys are less hesitant to let that gap go than you would think. And just because, you had Yates back there, it would be hard pressed to imagine that Van Aert's going to give up that opportunity for a stage win. And if Del Toro started looking at him, that they would both just fondle that, that lead and drop the gap and just go back to the group. That you don't know how it's going to play out. That's a big bluff game, but you can't imagine that they would both let that happen.
No, and that's the card that Wout played is, I'm not going to help you because I'm protecting my race leader, and Del Toro had to either decide, well, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to protect my race leader back there, but he would have had his sport director saying, you've got an incredible lead over Roglic's group, which is 2 minutes, and if you stay out here, you will be in pink. So he would have been getting advice to say, no, you have to ride. And if you can get Wout to work, that's a bonus. But, good luck with that. That's just not going to happen. And Wout played the right card. And I don't think anybody was upset. It's more the commentary around the result. But, at the end of the day, I'm just super happy for someone who's stuck to their guns, has had so many setbacks. Even coming into this Giro, he was unwell. And he was saying that I'm just here to help the team. I've got no chance of winning a stage. My form is terrible. And he said, even on his interview afterwards, even in this stage, he said, I missed the break. So I made the first mistake. I was supposed to be in the break. I missed it. And then I was trying to move our riders, Yates and all the teammates that he had, trying to get them into better positions. When they hit I saw him go from the back to the front, towing some riders along so that he could be at the front of the race to tow the Visma Lease bike athletes along with him at the front. So he was doing all this work for others, and then found himself in a position where he was separated from the rest of the field. There was a crash with Roglic, and so all these things were playing into his favour, opposite to what had been happening in the last 3 months. So when you give things a real crack, it's funny how things turn out in the positive. When you're sometimes too negative and too defensive, things go wrong. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn here. And he found himself in a position where there's no one else around except the last two. It was almost like the world was gifting him this opportunity, and all he had to do was take it. But boy, did he have to work up that last 500 meters. That is a classic finish. That is one of the all-time classic finishes going into the Piazza Square in Siena, up that narrow laneway on that shiny paving where you've got crowd just screaming at you, and you're doing 700 or 800 or 900 watts for 500 meters, and you are just emptying everything. There's no better sight in cycling than then two guys going for it. That was an unbelievable finish.
Yeah, don't tell us it's an undeserved gift when even in his interview he said that he'd almost got a fine in the week prior doing a recon of the course because he went up the square on his own because he really wanted to map it out and look at it, and it's obviously a no cycling zone outside of the Giro or the Strade Bianca, and that's how much he was wanting to make it work. But everyone is experiencing different things on their day, and he came into this Giro with sickness and he's battling through that, and he's probably not in his best form. So you could argue the other way and say, well, Del Toro would have no chance if Wout was in full form. So yeah, it's just racing. It's an unbelievable race, and it's a story of resilience that we're just so pumped about and we're so excited for, because to watch his kind of heartache and heartbreak over and over again in the Spring Classics this year, and his form, and he hasn't been bad. He's been right there, as we said at the start. 6 top 5 finishes in his last 6 races coming into this. It just and he was right there in a lot of the other times, and it's so encouraging to think you can have these results, and you can have all the noise around you just saying he's done, he's finished, his form's gone. And I think you said a couple of weeks ago, he will come back. He's a champion. He will come back. It might not be at the same expectation of time that everyone thought. Everyone thought he might come back sooner, but he will come back, and that's so encouraging that. He didn't have to change anything drastic. He just has to keep biding his time and keep doing the work and keep turning up, and this result happens.
Yeah, just trust the process and the things that got you. I think that was his 50th career victory, World Tour victory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't lose that form in an instance, You look like a guy, there's so many riders who have been able to ride at 38, Nibali, 38, 39 years of age, still at the World Tour level. So once you're at a good level and you're winning races a lot, 50 World Tour races is a lot. But when you saw him at the end, that was like he just won the Olympic Games or the World Championships. Like, that's his 50th win, but he was just releasing this pressure of, he was yahooing into the crowd. It was quite emotional for him to react like that. It meant so much to him, George. That's the thing that quite shocked me was, geez, this actually means a lot to him. The way he's reacting here, it wasn't in an outrageous, disrespectful arrogant way. It was just sheer emotion of, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, and I actually managed to do it. And I doubted myself. It's almost like, you're doubting yourself, and you just shock yourself that you're so emotional. You just release this pressure valve, and to me, that's what made this so much more good to watch, because it meant so much to him, even though he's won 50 other races.
Absolutely brilliant. Loved watching it. 9 Tour de France stage wins, 3 Vuelta, and now his first Giro. That's just impressive to add to his palmarès. So we are pumped. We loved that. What an epic race.
Yep, and at the end of the day, that's what we love watching sport for, and just a reminder to everybody out there: you never give up. You're always a chance somewhere down the track if you stay true to your course.